All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are with a very special guest, Illinois basketball's all-time leading scorer, Deon Thomas, and we're going to be talking some Big Ten basketball, specifically previewing the Big Ten tournament and one that sure seems like it is a exciting one. Illinois gets the 2 seed, so we'll be sure to talk plenty about the Illini as we get further into this. But let's start with kind of the overall bit of the tournament games starting on Wednesday, 5:30, Rutgers, Maryland to kick off the whole tournament. And no need to get too specific here, Deon, but like what what team do you want to watch out for? Like who somebody doesn't look at and say they're a big threat. Is there anybody that could go a little bit under the radar?
I mean, if you look at that so-called bottom four, I guess, teams that you're going to be going up against, whether it's Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan, Penn State, you still have Ohio State that's down there. If I had to pick one of the four, I mean the five, Ohio State would be that team that has been really rolling right now. They're playing extremely well since the coaching change. And that's a team that seems to be prepared and have the momentum behind them as they are moving into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and Illinois gets the winner of that Ohio State and Iowa game. So definitely, as it is every year, no gimme there. Um,
Yeah.
for Illinois' sake, is there a specific like out of Iowa or Ohio State? You're saying that how hot Ohio State is, you'd like to see a third rematch in the last couple of weeks, even with Iowa.
Well, I'll say this. I think anytime you go through a season, you sweep a team and then you run into them in your tournament conference, in your conference tournament, beating a team three times is always very difficult. I mean, now the two teams know each other very well. Illinois has gotten the best of Iowa the last couple of games, but if you look at the game in Champaign, it was very close, high scoring. And then, of course, just the other day, Illinois was able to go on the road and beat Iowa, which is where I saw you, my friend, you and
Mm-hmm.
your family. So I will say this, and I said it on the radio. I do not like facing teams three times. Third times is not necessarily a charm for the team that's won twice. I mean, if we look back at our history, it has come back to nip us in the bud. In '89, of course, you won't remember that. You'll remember it because maybe your parents told you, but you were not born then. I mean, Illinois had beaten Michigan and beaten them pretty bad both times during the year. And then Michigan goes on and knocks them off in the Final Four. So I think this is another kind of one of those situations. Do not want to face Iowa again simply because the teams know each other. Now, I do believe that the matchup against Illinois and Ohio State still benefits Ohio State. I mean, Illinois, sorry, over Ohio State. But as I mentioned, Ohio State has been playing extremely well. Bruce Thornton has been playing very, very well. Since they've gotten Jamison Battle back from injury, he has played really well. And then they have guys on the inside that are good shot blockers, like Felix Capara, that can really, and Zeb Key, that can really give Illinois, I guess, a little bit of an issue on the interior. But I still like the overall depth of Illinois over a Maryland team, especially one that's not familiar with them.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that, kind of backtracking a little bit about the your uh kind of back in the day, because I wanted to ask you one question I want to get to is you specifically as a player back in the day, is the approach going into the tournaments any different than the regular season and seeing a team three times like you mentioned?
Well, I won't. I'll use the NCAA tournament as a focus, or my time as a coach more so than as a player, because I'm a little bit older. There was no Big Ten tournament when I was at Illinois, so the opportunity of facing a team three times unless in the tournament. But when it comes to prepping, for whether it's the Big Ten tournament or NCAA tournament, you really start to pay attention not necessarily to every single thing that the team does, but you start to pay attention to tendencies that teams have. Because if you're in the Big Ten tournament, for example, you have seen these their offensive plays, their out of bounds plays. You've seen those things. There's not a whole lot of time to make a lot of adjustments. So you have a book of information on them, and you really want to pay attention to some of the tendencies. And even if they threw something in there that's different, the coach isn't going to be able to totally change the things that team does. He's going to want his guys ready, and there's just not much time to change or read the playbook in such a short time. But that same thing also carries over into the NCAA tournament, where again you're paying attention to what teams like to do, and you try to take those things away for some of the things that they don't feel very comfortable with.
Yeah, and building off of that, another thing that's obviously different about the Big Ten tournament and the postseason is you're playing games back to back days, sometimes coming off less than 24 hours rest. So, what do you think? Like, even if we're just talking specifically about Illinois here, what do you think they have to be focused on going into the week? Going into, I guess now we're down into the days leading into that.
Yeah. Well, since Illinois is playing on Friday, it's a little different than if they were playing on Wednesday. If they were playing on Wednesday, then you have to worry about one. You have to worry about first about that. You can't really concern yourself about what happens tomorrow or the day after. So you really want to make sure, one, that you're healthy. If you go in and you win that game, now you have to, again, go back into your for the next game, really, so you'll understand and where to and try to take away some of those things while maintaining your health, while maintaining your energy levels. So you really have to focus down, like I said, focus on what's very important, the bare essentials of things, because you just don't have enough time to really go over everything. So for an Illinois that plays on Friday, for example, they're going to be watching these games, and they have an opportunity to be able to because they know who their opponents are. We have to prepare for Ohio State. We have to prepare for Iowa. You know a lot about Iowa because you just played basically 10 days apart. So you have an idea of what they do. They're not going to change a whole lot. But again, that's a team that can get going offensively and really shoot you out of the gym. But now you get to learn and see and watch film on Ohio State so you can prep and prepare and be ready for them. And then looking forward, which, you're going to take care of that game first, but looking forward, then you'll be preparing for the next team, or at least the coaches will be preparing. So once that game is over, you can get right back on your game prep.
Yeah, so that makes it sound tough how you
It is.
can't I mean, you can't really just since, like I said, the games are one day apart, you can't just focus on that one team because you're gonna have less than 24 hours notice. So, and then you're focused on the next game if you do win. I'm glad that I'm not in charge of that.
Well, see, that's the joy of coaches, right? Coaches prepping and getting ready for the game that you have in hand. The other coaches preparing and getting everything ready for the next game. So after you win, then that night you're going back into the hotel. You're going to walk through whatever whatever he has on his scouting report. You're going to eat. You'll see video, and he'll have specific examples of the things that he is trying to show you, all pulled up so the guys can see it, learn it as much as they can. The next day, you'll go through your walkthroughs and you'll walk through all those things. And, they probably do that also in the hotel. And then you get ready to play the game. I'll tell you, as a player, as a coach, that's a ton of work. As a player, again, you're not going to be able to have time to learn and adjust to every single thing. You're that your body is ready, that you're mentally what the next step is in the game, because that's the really important part. And then you're going to try to remember and retain as much information from the scouting reports as you can.
All right. Yeah, that's a big part because a lot of it's just going with the game flow. I know sometimes I get excited and frustrated and say they don't look prepared out there, but uh sometimes yes, they're prepared, but the other team just comes out with something that they aren't expecting. And in tournament time, it seems like it's almost just a toss up. The way that the schedule is just all jam packed together with what is it, like almost 20 games in 5 days. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good to hear that side of it. Uh, Really, the one last main question that I have is, let's see, how about you give us your championship prediction?
Our championship prediction, of course, I'm a little biased.
Mhm.
So, you know, Grant, I think that the championship game will be Illinois and Purdue again.
That's what I said. Mhm.
Yeah, I think they're the two best teams in the Big Ten. I think they're pretty much head and shoulders above everyone else. But I would not be surprised because Northwestern has had Purdue's number.
Mhm.
So that could be a possibility. And if that's the case, I know Northwestern won in Evanston, but I don't believe they match up very well against Illinois if Illinois makes it there. But again, now we're back to that beating a team 3 times. I
Mhm.
mean, now Zach Edey is special, but I think you can take, if you're that Illinois coaching staff, you lost by 5, and then you turn around and you lost by 6 or 7. And then you can see where we made those mistakes, correct those mistakes, and then be able to apply this to the next game. Now, does that mean you're going to win? Of course not. But it does give you a dog in, a better dog, a bigger dog in the fight when you're going towards this team because they got a really big dog on that other team, and you really need to figure out how to contend or deal with that. Or turn off the other 4 players on the floor. How Zaki, you make his shots tough, but you make sure you shut down everyone else.
That's what it looked like Illinois was trying to do in that game. I think it was just last week at State Farm Center. In the first half, when they were having that success, it seemed like they were doing a good job of limiting those perimeter guys from shooting. But then what? They went like 8 of 10 from three in the second half. So
Yeah,
Purdue
I
is a
would agree.
very good adjusting team.
I would agree with you, and that's one of the things that this is the greatest. One of the great things about the Big Ten, we not only have great players, we have great coaches. So of course, they're going to make an adjustment as they did. But I also think we made an adjustment because remember, in the first half, we didn't double team Zach Edey.
Mhm.
But the second half, I guess, we were trying to get the ball out of his hands, do a few more things. But when you allow those guys who shoot, they're a team that shoots over 40% from the 3-point range, that 3-pointer will kill you, man. So it's really going to be a coach's battle as well as a battle between the players on the floor.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it, and that's really all the questions that I needed to ask. I really appreciate your insight. Uh, Again, Illinois' all-time leading scorer. So this is the guy that knows his stuff, and also the current color guy on the Illinois Fighting Illini radio broadcast. So big thanks to Deon for joining me, and thank you all so much for watching. Big Ten tournament getting into March. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, Grant.